So there's been more appointments to the Trump cabinet. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little confused about some. Now, I do believe that Trump doesn't want echo chambers. I think he wants a balanced approach to making opinions. And ultimately, anyone who knows Trump, I imagine, says, you know, it doesn't matter who's going to actually do this role. He will have the ultimate say as the quote-unquote CEO. You know, he'll listen to their opinions, and it may be varying, but ultimately, he will decide. And don't get me wrong, I like that. However, what we saw in 2016 were bad choices. And I'm scared that he's making some now. Now, before you get mad, let's talk about him. The new Treasury Secretary, again, brilliant guy, but he has some questionable ties. The new Surgeon General, I mean, she was kind of for the 2020 situation and actually was very proactive with it and still pretty much proactive. So tell me, why are these two people in his cabinet when really we were trying to push against these kind of people? We needed really more echo chambers. We needed the Matt Gaetz. We needed the ones who believe what he believes. That's why he was elected. I don't think we want more bureaucracy or more control. And both of these choices are a little too much for me. Now, he made a great choice with FDA. I think a great move. Again, someone who actually pushes against kind of what the Surgeon General, the new Surgeon General is. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he's just doing this because he likes the debate, and then through that debate and through that canter, he can get what he wants, a better opinion. I don't know. But I imagine there's a plan. I just don't know if I like some of these choices. Let's discuss those. And also, we're going to talk about the same thing that we're doing to Ukraine, Russia, and expanding NATO. You know, it makes Russia upset. And we've always said, well, we'd feel the same way, and we don't want anybody at our back doors. Well, that's exactly what's happening. We're going to talk about what China just did in South America and Latin America and how it's no different than what we're doing with NATO. And I think that we're griping about it when it comes to South America. Russia's griping about it. What really is the difference? And I don't think there is. I think that this is what's so important about making sure that we kind of have a balanced approach to understand that we need America first. We need to understand that we need to balance out our own problems and issues first. Quit worrying about NATO and Europe. Let them figure out their own things. And when we get our stuff together and we have strong leadership, I think that we would kind of solve a lot of these issues versus starting more conflicts and worry. So we're going to talk about the China issue. That's a lot thrown at you in an intro, but I have some worries and reservations about some of these picks. And then also, it's like we're dogging China out for doing the exact same thing that we're personally doing. Makes no sense. Let's talk about these stories today. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay. But let us know what you think about today's content. Now, I'm not trying to be overly critical. Again, Trump is not even in president yet. But I do think we were hoping and voting for less bureaucracy and more what you call, I guess, Trumpism. You know, more people who are thinking like him. Like I told you, I think the RFK, the Tulsi Gabbard, those choices are, again, as people who are not as conservative as me. However, they have a more of a less regulation, more, you know, I want to clean up government. So I think that they were both good choices, not on the conservative side, but on the fact of a unity and on the fact of wanting more eyes on government instead of government eyes on us, if you get what I'm saying. I think they want dismantling and deregulation, which plans to lean towards people like me that is a conservative libertarian. I like the Pete Hegseth. That was kind of out of left field. I think it's a great choice. Not so much a Rubio fan. We've talked about that. But let's talk about some of these other choices. You know, we were hoping for Thomas Massie as Secretary of Agriculture. That didn't happen. And also, the person he put over FDA, I was really happy with. I think Dr. Makari, maybe how you pronounce his name, he was kind of pushed on the fact that 2020 happened because of China. And he was also very staunch on cleaning up our food and kind of pushing against the narrative of what we've heard for so long. So, like, again, I think a very good person who could help deregulate and open the eyes of Americans. But then we come down to this new Surgeon General, this lady, Dr. Jeanette. Then we see the Treasury Secretary. Again, the Treasury Secretary thing was going to be probably out of Howard Lutnick and this gentleman who actually got it, Bassett. But Lutnick got Commerce, which was good. I think that's a good move. But this guy who's over Treasury Secretary, a lot of his billions and a lot of his hedge and his experience for the market, even though he left him, even though he's not with him anymore, he did work as a Soros guy for a long, long time. He worked for that hedge. He was part of that management group. So it's like, how much of that influenced him? Now, there's been stories saying that, Scott Bessent has nothing to do with Soros, and, he was always the one that pushed against him. And okay, but he also was a big part of the Soros hedge fund. So how tied up is he? Again, as a Christian and a conservative, he has some weird moral views that I'm not for either. I don't believe in some of the life choices he's made. Do I think he's smart in the stock market? Yes, I believe he's got brilliance in the stock market. But at the same time, I want to make sure that our Treasury Secretary has Main Street economics too, to where he understands what people are struggling with. And not only that, to see the wrongs that the Soroses and people like that has done to our cities. So I was not really happy with that choice. I believe he's a great advisory role when it comes to the stock market and to a Treasury Secretary or to Trump. I just don't know if he would be the one I'd want to put in charge of it. I think Lutnick was better, which again, Lutnick didn't get kicked out. He's over commerce, which is another huge cabinet position that people don't even see. But when it comes to Scott Bessent, I don't know if he's the right man for the job. I personally just think that I would like for him to explain some of his Soros situations. If you look about his history, and if you read Wikipedia on him, if you read some information on him, I mean, he's been brilliant. But then also he's got so many ties to kind of establishment stock market stuff and some of that Soros. And I don't understand how this is a good choice. To me, it shows that the tentacles of the establishment is actually deeper than we think. If you go back and check this Surgeon General out, I mean, why in the world they didn't pick Ben Carson or the Surgeon General from Florida for this position? Both phenomenal men and conservative and kind of pushed against this whole narrative. I mean, the Surgeon General of Florida right now is pushing against fluoride, just what RFK was talking about. So why would he not be the one to be a choice for our own Surgeon General for the nation? Dr. Jeanette, that's her first name. I can't pronounce her last name. I'm not going to try. She was really big on the coverings. She was really big on this. Still to a point, pretty big on those things. Was pretty big on mandates. So when you see those kind of things, is he wanting someone to be someone who, almost like a devil's advocate, where they push back on him and he can then make a wise decision? And I know a lot of times people say he liked a dissension. He liked the arguments because through those arguments you'd get the best and wisest way forward. I kind of worry about some of these choices. The Rubio. Even Pam Bondi, I'm not the biggest Bondi fan. I know Trump likes her, but to me, she's kind of had some questionable things on 2A. She's not been as staunch or conservative as I would like. I think Matt Gaetz was a better choice, personally. Not because I liked him, but because he was a stalwart, he was a firebrand, he pushed against the narrative. And that's, I think, what we need. I mean, people like for Pam Bondi, like Jeb Bush, and some of these are like, oh, that's a great move. Way to go, Pam Bondi. Like, they're like congratulating Trump on this and congratulating Pam on this. It's like, so the establishment is happy about this choice? I kind of like the fact that when Gaetz was appointed, nobody was happy about it except for populist and American conservative libertarians. So I'm getting a little worried. And I know people will say, well, look, the Republican Party is diverse. So therefore, you're going to have people on the conservative side. You're going to have people on the Christian side, like the Huckabees and the Headseth. You're going to have people on the libertarian side, kind of like the Tulsis and the RFKs. You're going to have people on the established side, the Rubios, the Bondis, the Lee Stefanik's. Understand that. But I'm scared that some of the people that's getting these highest positions are some of the establishment people, and that's kind of what caused our problems in the first place. I mean, look, McConnell, we were so happy that he was leaving as Senate Majority Leader. The man is still going to serve, and he's going to be on the most powerful committee in the Senate. This man's like 182 years old, can't think, has had like mini strokes while doing pressers, and they're going to put him over one of the biggest rules committees and really the biggest Senate committees there are. This is why I'm scared that sometimes the establishment is too big to fix. And you have to look for Doge, you have to look for Vivek and Elon and some of them to just tear it down. Now, there's been word that some of the people on the Doge committee Langford and Cornyn. Now those are alleged, but those are people that they said that they're going to help get those ideas from them. Again, two establishment guys who are not conservative enough for my liking. So I'm a little worried that yes, we have to work together. Yes, we have to build some kind of unity. Yes, you have to work with people across the aisle. Yes, you have to work with people that don't necessarily agree with you. But where does all that get us? Most of us got it in the world that we live in. We're borrowing $1 trillion every 100 days. We're in debt up to our eyeballs. We're in conflicts across the world. We have troops everywhere. And really no guidance. So I hope that Trump is being smart in some of these decisions. I'm worried. Again, he's the billionaire president. I'm just a lowly guy in Mississippi that farms. So he's a lot smarter than me. But some of these decisions I'm a little worried about. Now, I want to know your opinion. What's your thoughts on some of these? Now, again, we're not talking about the ones like that we're all liking, but some of these newer ones. What do you think about it? He's filled it in, and some of them I'm not personally happy with. But what is your thoughts? I mean, I hope my mind is blown and they're completely sold out to Trump-esque policies. But some of them I'm a little worried about. Actually, it came out that some of his people on the Attorney General side and Pam Bondi and some of them, they were going to take it, case by case on J6 on pardoning. Wait, that's a different story than what we heard on the campaign trail. So I just don't want him to do the same thing he did in 2016 where he trusted the establishment and they let him down and they really stabbed him in the back. He's got to be careful here. And I hope and pray, prayerfully, truthfully praying, that he puts the right people around him and that he uses these people as advisory roles, but ultimately makes decisions that are wise and that he can learn from, and that we have said, okay, we've made these mistakes in 2016, we can't make them again. Now let's talk about what's happening in South America, and let's talk about what China is doing. The biggest push for Russia has been, well, you told us that you were not going to expand NATO any more closer to us, and here we are with Ukraine. That's kind of what started this whole debacle. Now we're like, well, why were you worried, Russia? I mean, we're not going to do anything. I mean, we're just wanting to expand to your neighbor. And so we almost try to justify accepting Ukraine and moving more closer to Russia. Well, guess what? Now we're, complaining about China doing the exact same thing. Now, do I want China at our back doors? No. But that proves the point of, why don't we just stay in our own lanes, worry about America, worry about building American manufacturing, American business, and American imports, exports, and making America great, instead of worry about what's happening in Europe, Eastern Europe, or even Russia. Because now China is doing literally the same thing that we have been preaching for and preaching to NATO to keep expanding. Listen to this. China builds new ports in Peru. A strategic threat to U.S. security is what this article says, and this is from Zero Hedge. It says, these new China-controlled ports in Peru is part of a Chinese leader strategy to outflank the United States by establishing maritime land and corridors from South America to China and China to Latin America and all throughout the regions. So now we're getting upset that China is coming closer to us and building business opportunities that does not involve America. Well, first and foremost, you need to go back and quit selling land to China. Our farmlands are being sold to China anyway. Our biggest pork producer and one of our biggest beef providers are tied to China companies anyway. So like when we hear the stories, I'm like, you let them in our front door. Why are you worried about our back door when they're literally owning land here? But I digress. They own a lot of the ports, by the way, in America as well. So why are we griping about this, first and foremost? But secondly, I understand our concern that we don't want people at our back door that actually doesn't like us and that's in stiff competition against us. It's kind of like you opening a store that sells chicken and all of a sudden next to you, Chick-fil-A or Popeyes or Zaxby's or someone comes right beside you and can sell it for cheaper, better, has the name recognition, and ultimately has a sign that says my chicken's better than yours. We don't like that. We don't like competition that's right next to us. Now, if they're down the road, then it's friendly competition, helps us be better. But when they're put right next to us, that could be a problem. Okay, now let's take it on a very serious scale. We are trying to justify going to Ukraine and making them NATO members, which are a bordering country to Russia, which we've had issues with. Okay, it's also our competition, world power. Now, we're trying to justify that at the same time trying to de-justify and repudiate and argue the fact that China should not be coming to our back door. Now, I know this is a game of cat and mouse, but it does not make sense. It's almost like an oxymoron. We're like, yes, we're going to justify moving closer to one superpower while we gripe at the fact of a superpower moving close to us. Now, do I want China at our back door? No, that's exactly right. I don't want them at our back door. I don't want them on farmlands here in Mississippi or any other United State that we have in America. But they do. And so when we're trying to get them away from South America and Latin America and Africa, like we were talking about with our Port Tonera, we try to tell them they can't do that. And all the while we're doing the same thing and expanding closer to Russia. Now help me make sense of that. Now, this is not a video hating on American policies and American things. I'm American. I want America to thrive. But to me, if we would learn to just stay in our lane and learn to focus on American things and making America great, then I think all this other stuff would work itself out. If we would learn to say we're going to cut funding off to NATO and cut funding off to Ukraine, it would solve itself, and Russia would make peace, and we would be out of that conflict. Now we're talking about, missiles. Like nuclear warheads on missiles. Now, I talked about yesterday about, quote unquote, a secret meeting that Trump was having with NATO down at Mar-a-Lago. Now, there's also a story today, and it was not secret. It was happening, an emergency meeting with Ukraine and NATO, meeting about the missiles that Russia was now using. But instead of slowing down and trying to backtrack off that, Ukraine is wanting to shoot more missiles into Russia, which is going to make the escalation even worse. So while we're complaining that China is building ports and making trade and making us less safe on our own shores, we're doing the same thing to another superpower. Now, we're not even going to talk about the fact that we're doing the same thing in the South China Sea with trying to get closer to Taiwan and giving them arms deals and trying to build up people that don't like China. It's the same thing, and I know this is how it works. But instead of becoming like the stalwart to a point where we're wanting to bully everybody, especially when we're weak because of our economy, because of the way that we've done business, especially for the last 4 years, why don't we just focus on America and let's quit worrying about what's happening in all these areas? And then, you know what? Then let's negotiate. Then we go to Peru and say, no, China said they're going to build your ports and they're going to give you this much trade and they're going to do this much. Why don't we just say, no, we're just going to do it better. We're going to do it cheaper, more economical, and we're better trade partners because we're closer to you. It's like you use it as friendly competition and you start winning. That's all it takes. You fix the trade deficits that we have, you fix the tariff situations that we have, and you compete on the economic scale and not worry about threatenings of war all the dang time. That's what would solve it. You fix the problem in Russia, you quit trying to start wars, and you say, you know what, don't buy Russian gas and fuel, I can do it a lot cheaper. And you compete on that aspect. That's what I'm saying. We need to learn to compete on business and quit threatening war. It's like every other day we're going, well, there's nuclear war that's going to happen. It's nuclear war, it's going to happen. Well, because it's like it's just a word we throw around where millions of people could die, or the fact that the world could cease to exist. Now, we believe as Christians that's not how the world's going to end, but what I'm trying to say to you is it would kill millions. And we're just threatening it like it's like a days ago, like we had a bad case of China buffet. You know what I'm saying? We make it light like it's no big deal. And that's not what we should be doing. But it makes no sense for us to complain what China's doing and expanding into South America when we're doing the same thing in the South China Sea, and also that we're moving closer and closer to the back door of Russia by making NATO countries like Ukraine. That started the whole fight. So I really have a problem with the way we've done business. And it's like I told you before, if I always am looking at what my neighbor is doing and seeing if he's fixing his yard, if he's cutting his yard, if he's making his yard pretty, if he's painting his house, and if I keep my focus on his home all the time, then my home goes in disrepair. I can look and I can watch and see what's going on over there, and I can be nosy, but ultimately my house may not be in order because I've spent more time focusing on his house. Well, it's time to focus on our flipping house. It's time for U.S. to worry about U.S. And that's why I go back to the first point. That's why I want Trump to pick people who care about U.S. and the fact of wanting a spiritual awakening, wanting reviving of not only spiritual things, but of just being America and being the city on a hill that we were once, always. And I know that, yes, our dollar and our war machine makes it look like we're always the strongest on the block. I don't want us to bully I don't want us to have a bully mentality to make us the strongest on the block. I want us to be where people say, man, America is a great country. They're helping everybody, but it's because America benefited America first. So, a few things to end this video, wrap it all up. These things have nothing in common, but at the same time, they have everything in common. The point is, we picked a leader who we want America first thinking. Deregulation, unity, but also we want to break down the system that has put us in these precarious binds. So we don't want bad bureaucrats running the same things that we're trying to run the left out of. If all of a sudden we just put more rhinos in there or more of the people who like bureaucracy in there, it doesn't really get us anywhere. So I'd like to hear more about Scott Bessent and this Dr. Jeanette and Rubio and why these choices were important to Trump. I would love to hear him say, these are why I chose these people. Now, at the same time, if we would just learn to make America first and make America strong and go talk to Peru, go talk to Africa, go talk to Taiwan, and let's say, let's do deals. And not in war fashion to threat of war to China or Russia, but let's just do deals and we're going to be better and give you a better price, give you more return, and also do it for X amount prices cheaper than what China and Russia do. You compete on the economic side instead of threats of war all the time. We quit funding Ukraine and figuring out what we can negotiate for these people. And all we are is just the go-between. We don't need to be we don't need to actually do the negotiation. We just need to make the environment for it. Well, if we cut off aid to it, that would ultimately happen. Because if we stopped aid, all of Europe would too. Because they're a bunch of pansies. All they do is they're going to follow what we do. So if we cut off aid, NATO will shut their mouth, and Europe won't keep funding a war either. And therefore, Ukraine will have nothing other than sitting at the negotiating table, which is what they need to do. And quit expanding NATO any further, and it solves that problem. That easy. It's like a kindergarten could solve that. My children that homeschool, there's been times where my kids are like, well, wouldn't you think if we didn't give them money that it would probably end? It's amazing that my 12 and 13 and 16-year-old can say that. However, we elect people for millions of dollars to not make that happen. It's unbelievable. It truly is. All right, guys, I hope I didn't offend you today, but I want you to just tell me your thoughts on this. I mean, what's your thoughts on Trump's new picks? I mean, what is your thoughts on them? Also, tell me what your thoughts are on the fact of China making new ports. I mean, I think that we're wrong to expand our view to somewhere else, and I think China is wrong to come in our back door. But it's hard for us to complain at China because we're doing the same thing across the world. Again, I think that we just need to focus on America. Am I wrong? Am I right? Tell me your thoughts. I need you commenting and telling us what you think. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and please subscribe. I've lost about 3,000 subscribers just this week, so I need your help to rebuild that. And I don't think it's anything that people are leaving me. I just think that this platform sometimes doesn't like truth, and that's what we're trying to profess here. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are taking your family to church. It is Sunday. Enjoy the time with your family. Do not take your family for granted. It is Thanksgiving week this next week. Let's be thankful for what God has given us, and that is our family, our health, and of course this great nation. Now we need to see this great nation come back to Him. We need a spiritual awakening. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless.